terms of importance? How would you rate each one?
ETF approval is an 8. Government shutdown, I don't think is necessarily a catalyst, and until like some type of funding agreement was signed, and when you get the another $2 trillion deficit next year, that's probably a 5 or a 6 for Bitcoin. What was the third?
The third one is the Fed.
Uh, uh, I think that's an 8 or a 9.
Okay, interesting. So you think that the Fed not going as we like could could um, could kind of discount any impact that we have from the ETF in terms of the approval. Like if credit is still bad and the Fed is still hawkish moving forward over the next few
Yeah,
months,
it's like what
even the
price does
ETF.
that happen at though, right? Like, is the Fed gonna pivot with the S&P where it is now, or is it gonna pivot when S&P is 10% lower? And if the S&P is 10% lower, then where's Bitcoin? It kind of depends on what are the factors that lead to a cut or a pause. But we can see the charts floating around. M2 correlation with Bitcoin is very high.
Okay, and then if you look at the rest of the market, Scott, jump in when you like. I know I get greedy sometimes with asking questions, but Matthew, when you look at the rest of the market, how do you think the rest of the market will react if we keep seeing the upward momentum, if we see the ETF go the way we expect, the Fed, yeah, let's say it's hawkish for a bit more, starts to pause. If everything goes as expected, there's no government shutdown, how do you see the crypto market over the next 12 months, and then the rest of the market as well? When will the capital flow into alts?
Yeah, I still think the risk reward is that Bitcoin dominance is going to rise into and after the halving. That's the historical analog. Like, this is an asset class which requires inflows just to keep the prices flat. And the ETF approval is an obvious catalyst for those inflows. So until we get that more explicit Fed pivot, I'm reasonably cautious on risk assets overall. Observe the relatively high correlation over the last couple of years that Bitcoin has had with risk assets, and assume that crypto might be weak if the macro is weak, but that with these Bitcoin specific catalysts, Bitcoin dominance can rise. There's also, the ETH BTC ratio just broke below the 3 hours capital low. There's not too much support here at current levels, and there's a bit of a negative ETH narrative, in the market around the scaling roadmap. We think that will sort itself out. But if you go back to, again, 2019, Bitcoin dominance, rose in the second half of the year. It rose even after the halving, and then the full power of the bull market wasn't unleashed until ETH dominance started to rise, and that's the time when we get more constructive on alts. Although there's always some exceptions. Solana's up 100% this month. You might have noticed VanEck just put out a research piece last week with a $300 price target, where we modeled a scenario in which Solana is the first blockchain to host an application with 100 million users, and we've been really impressed with the technical roadmap and execution from that project. So there are some winners, but broadly speaking, I expect BTC dominance to rise, and the miners. We can see really a big divergence in the miners. We can get into that, but the low cost guys are definitely outperforming here ahead of the halving.
Yeah, Mario, Solana just actually broke $40 sort of as we're speaking here, and that officially broke the high price right before the FTX collapse. So it's effectively erased SBF from the planet, which is what we're all looking to do here anyways.
Holy
but yeah,
shit.
Solana absolutely. And to echo obviously what Matt said, we effectively did a whole Solana show yesterday. Rand was reporting live from Breakpoint in the Netherlands, and he was really, really excited. And some of the people I respect the most have been sort of beating the drum on Solana here for a while, largely because of the fundamental reasons, Fire Dancer, and everything that's coming with that protocol, which echoes again what Matt just said. So I think there's a lot to like there. Mario, you still don't know if we lost you, but yeah.
No, I cut out. Yeah, I keep cutting out. But I saw Solana. I was just looking at the chart. I had no idea, man, because of this war and shit. I'm not even keeping track. So that
I mean,
started
this thing went
in
back down to $8. It was
yeah, that's
$8.
crazy, man.
Sure.
It doubled, almost about doubled since what is it? Is that October? Since last month. That doubled since last month.
Yeah,
That's
in
mental.
2 weeks,
Congratulations to that.
two and a
That's
half weeks. So
insane.
I think it was trading on like October 12th around $20.
But
Yeah,
what
20,
triggered, what
25.
changed so much? Is that the hype behind what exactly?
I mean, I think that Matthew, I think just laid it out, but I think there's some actual fundamental improvements. Obviously, people will disagree emotionally whether those things count. But, with Fire Dancer, the ability to do just mind blowing amounts of transactions per second, the amount of developer activity, the amount of, I guess, hype surrounding it. I think that there's a belief that Solana could kind of be the base chain narrative of this next cycle. Like kind of everything was built on ETH in past cycles, and maybe in this cycle it's going to be what's being built on Solana. Rand laid out some pretty
Yeah, I was going to
astounding
ask you
numbers, which
what
actually,
did Rand
yeah,
yeah, what did Rand
and
say yesterday?
Raul, yeah, and Raul Paul had done the same. I had him on my podcast on Sunday, and he went through these sort of numbers of how, just in fact, how cheap it is to, for example, mint NFTs on Solana. It was, I don't want to quote the numbers, but it was like 10,000 NFTs for, $15. And then you looked at Ethereum and it was a few $100. You looked at Ethereum layer 2 and maybe it was 40 or 50. But when you get up to minting 1 million NFTs or something like that, it was just a couple $100 now on Solana. And it was thousands of dollars, on a Matic or a layer 2, and it was literally millions of dollars on Ethereum. So I think that there's a lot of people, to what Rand was saying, that want to build on a layer 1. They don't want to deal with layer 2s and bridging, and they're not going to focus on Ethereum when it's cost prohibitive or there's reasons not to do it. I mean, we have a lot of speakers here who could probably speak to this more clearly than I am, but that was the general sort of gist of what
I
Rand
brought
said.
up Scott. I brought up Chris. You said sorry to interrupt, but you said like if we have anyone else.
Solana
Chris
Chris.
was there. Yeah, exactly. He was there when Solana was getting shat on, and he was one of the few defending it in the midst of the hate. Chris, can you first give us your thoughts on everything that Scott said? And first, welcome back. Welcome back to life. How's adoption like? Is it still gaming projects launching on Solana? Give us a bit more insight behind the scenes on the developer side.
Am I coming through clearly, by the way? Because I'm in a vehicle.
Yes.
All right,
Yes, man.
sick. So
It's
I'll
called
make
in a
it
car,
real.
not vehicle, but go ahead.
Yeah. I'll make it. It's a Cybertruck. No, not really. That'd be sick, huh? So I'll be real quick about Solana and some of the things that are probably making the larger buyers more bullish right now. A couple things that Solana struggled with was first Sam Bankman-Fried, right, which the world has kind of discovered the truth about all of that, and that's really helped us getting out from underneath that rug. But at Amsterdam, they recently showed off a few pieces of technology, one of them being the Fire Dancer technology, which is a new way for node validators to process transactions on Solana. Right now, it costs like $3,000 to build a computer that can run a Solana node efficiently for like a year or two with current hardware. However, with the Fire Dancer update and the partnership with Google Cloud, AWS, it'll make it to where for like $30 a month, you could afford to run a Solana node. And this also helps us protect the network as we scale in transactions. And Fire Dancer is able to handle and this is not bullshit, 1 million TPS on testnet. So if we fracture that down 90% and we talk about what it would look like if on mainnet 10% of that power existed, that would be 100,000 TPS. And to somebody's point recently who said they think that Solana could be the first blockchain to host an application with 100 million users, well, this is possible with Fire Dancer. Because on testnet, Fire Dancer does 86 billion transactions a day confirmed. If we get 10% of that on mainnet, we would be able to confirm 8 billion transactions a day. That's enough for every human on the planet Earth to have one transaction confirmed per day on the Solana blockchain, dude. It's absolutely unbelievable, Mario. And with the cloud-based services now active, the Solana Foundation could divide some of their treasury up a bunch of amongst a bunch of nodes, so that if we ever have a massive uptick or an attempted botting attack, which happened 10 or 12 months ago and hurt the network's TPS dramatically, Well, we could spin up nodes on command that would be able to process those additional transactions. And the last thing I would like to say for the haters who go, won't Solana turn off? The last time that happened where we reset the nodes was because 4 million TPS was ingested by a node for a mint, and it passed the transactions off to other nodes, crashing them in succession. You just heard what I said about Fire Dancer. Even if it's at 10% capacity on mainnet, we could handle 4 million TPS in 40 seconds. Unbelievable, Mario. It's the first blockchain infrastructure that can scale into Web2 applications.
Scott, this guy's pretty damn
He's
good at
really
getting
excited.
excited.
He's really
Yeah,
excited. He's really
yeah, I can
excited.
see.
Do you by chance, if you open a used car lot, I will literally buy a piece of shit from you. For
I'm
no
buying
price.
Solana right now. I'm
I
buying
was
it at
about
the
to
peak
say,
right now. I'm leveraging this
let's buy.
purchase. I don't know how to leverage, Scott. I've never leveraged in my life, but I'm leveraging. I'm just being sarcastic just for the audience. Go to Thomas. Go ahead, man.
Oh, hey, thanks, guys. Just from the perspective of, like, I guess FTX being such a large, I don't want to call it bag holder. We like the project. It's great to hear all that stuff. So thanks for sharing. If this is a huge asset for the estate, most of it's locked. And they signed a deal with Genesis to help manage the crypto. And so when you think through that, I mean, they could have maybe sold or hedged some of it. Most of it's locked, so I doubt it. A lot of it, I think, is being staked, is what I'm hearing. And I think they even kind of, you could see that kind of action, I guess, either on or off chain or whatnot. The other thing is, so if you think about it, it's 56 million tokens. So you're talking about an asset that's now $2.2 billion ish. I mean, to the point where FTX, given all the other good news, is pushing towards 100% repay, the whole clawback discussion around customers would totally fall by the wayside. You can't have clawbacks in 100% repay scenario. So Anthropic and Solana could end up saving the entire estate from clawbacks, including, you think, the knock-on effects of like a Binance. Like Binance was bought out in 2021 for what, 2.1 billion or something. And there's a potential of bringing a cause of action there. But if it's a 100% repay case, you can't bring those causes of action. So it would be also a big boon for CZ. So maybe he should be pumping up the Solana bag. But it is interesting to think through those implications of Solana now breaking 40. If it goes 40, 50, 60, you could be looking at well over 100% repay case to Solana creditors, and those would be the knock-on effects.